Welcome to, I guess, it's the first Magpie Circle podcast of the new season, 2022-2023. Joined by a gentleman today who I think he's been out on the golf course, twiddling his thumbs. He's not had a lot to do. New head coach Luke Williams, thank you so much for joining us on what has been a pretty hectic day for you, isn't it?
It has been, yeah. Thank you very much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Thank you to you personally, to the club's communications department, everyone at the club for making you available. And in the show, we want to kind of dip a little bit behind the mask, your coaching journey, management, your hopes, your ambitions, and get to understand and know you a little bit better. So we've got all the questions sorted, but such a busy day, we've kind of got to start in only one place. And that is several new signings. So we've got Kedwin with a K for all of those who are wondering how we're supposed to pronounce it. Kedwin Scott and Aidan Baldwin coming in. Adam Chickson has signed a new contract. On the outgoings, Lewis Knight is going in the opposite direction up to Gateshead. So, and we should also say, Luke, a big welcome to your assistant, Ryan Harley, as well, to Madeley. So just talk to me. We've already got Macaulay Langstaff from Gateshead. We now have Kedwin. We'll come on to Aidan in a moment. Just talk to me a bit about what impresses you, why we brought Kedwin in.
Well, I think, first and foremost is the rare ability in football to score. And he certainly has the quality and the personality to score. He's in a good place in terms of he's very motivated. He's a player that's trying to climb up the leagues. He's not a player that's on the way down, far from it. So a guy with real qualities and real ambition and hunger.
It certainly excites the fan base, scoring goals in his own right, but of course he scored a lot of goals together with another of our earlier signings, Macaulay Langstaff. Absolutely,
and that's a great thing to have that connection. So we're hoping that these guys can come here and can do a similar job and play well together and provide for each other and score goals.
One player who you know a little bit about from your previous coaching journey also signed today, centre half, Aidan Baldwin. Tell us a little bit about Aidan.
Yeah, I've known Aidan for a few years now, and he's somebody who can defend first and foremost. He's a tough defender. He can tackle. He can head the ball. He's got real pace, so he can cover the back of the pitch. He can cover the channels, but he's also very comfortable with the ball. Can travel with the ball at his feet. Has got a really good range of passing. We might even see Aidan take a free kick, a direct free kick. He can really get it up and down. So he's got a lot of qualities. He's got a point to prove, which I like. He's been a bit unfortunate, and he like everybody has made probably the wrong decision at the wrong time. But he's got a real point to prove, and he's so excited to be here. Really excited to be here. Really wants to get going. So again, a player with quality that is desperate to play.
And also, lest we forget, Adam Chickson, very influential last season, many people's player of the season. He signed a new contract as well today.
That's great news because he's got real experience. He joined Brighton just as I left in the Championship and was highly rated there. Obviously, highly rated at MK Dons. So, his career speaks for itself, and it's great news that we've managed to re-sign him. Brilliant news.
Okay, and this kind of leads us on, because of the activity you've done today with the new signings, into the whole process, if you like, of recruiting players. It's perhaps slightly different to a traditional model. What can you? How is recruitment done here? Do you have the final say? Is it collaborative? How from your perspective, does it work?
There's a group of people here that are involved in in players coming to the club. We all can put a player forward, but once we put that player forward, everybody has an opportunity to analyze that player, to call somebody that worked with that player, to get feedback on them. So there's a group of people that are all trying to work out whether or not the player is a good fit for the club. Now, there are different regimes. You may see clubs where a manager signs players that he feels comfortable with, players that he knows possibly from a previous role. That can work well, but it can also be a disaster because potentially another manager comes in and wants something completely different, and now you're stuck with a lot of players that you need to move on. You now need to try to bring a whole new squad for that new manager who's come in. You know, that can be very problematic. The idea here is a model that you see increasingly more and more in football. And I try to give you an example. You know, a manager's life expectancy in football is very short. And also, let's be honest, when a manager does well, often he will jump and go to take a different opportunity. Now, if that manager leaves a week before the new season, he can leave the club in total disarray. However, in the model that you're seeing at Notts County at the moment, there are people that are trying to work to keep consistency and harmony in the club so that they can better survive either a head coach exiting for pastures new or an head coach failing and being replaced. So in those interim times, the club has got people working really diligently for the best interest of the club to survive those changes without huge dips. And so I think it's a model that you're going to see increasingly more and more in football. It's a model that Brighton have followed. It's a model that Brentford have followed. We see some examples of football clubs that, if you look at Chelsea, Chelsea didn't start winning until a certain oligarch turned up and was able to give them the opportunity to foul, but then bankroll the club again if they failed, to bankroll the club again if they failed. That model's fantastic. But now, if you speak to people at Chelsea, they're worried because the guy that bankrolled everything is now disappeared from the, you know, we all know the situation, but it could become an unstable club. Look, I think Chelsea's probably not a great example because they have so much wealth behind them now that, you know, hopefully that club can now be self-sustained for years to come. But if you look at some of the clubs that we've seen drop from the top flight almost out of football altogether, often there's been an influx of money. They haven't achieved what they set out to achieve. Disillusioned owners then take their money and leave, and the club can be extremely vulnerable at that moment. What I believe is going on here is that the club are trying to make sure that they keep continuity, consistency, so that they can build up without big hiccups, without big bumps in the road. Unfortunately, there are bumps. We know that because we've seen 3 playoff campaigns. Yeah. There's no guarantees in football, but I've got no doubt that the current ownership and the staff that have been employed at the club are trying to steadily build for not just to get back into the EFL, but to continue that building process in a way that never leaves the club in a really vulnerable position ever again. That's my belief.
Very, very, very comprehensive answer and a very enlightening answer. I guess if we look at the 2 players, and I'm drawing something from some of the quotes I've seen on the club website today. In terms of Kedwin, there's been work done on that. And if I read this correctly, this was kind of a player introduced to you for your thoughts. And then clearly there's Aidan, who comes from a category of a player that you know, that you kind of introduce. So it's kind of coming from part of this group? I mean, without giving away too many trade secrets, is this like a collaborative 3, 4, 5 people in a room? Your assistant, would Richard Montague, for instance, be involved? Do the owners actually get involved at this level, or are they sitting above it all?
All of the above, everything that you just said there. And I think it shows the robustness of the recruitment system here is really, you've highlighted it so well, because I came in here having been working at a championship level with Swansea. You're looking at players at that level, so you don't have a huge understanding of players that are available to Notts County. But you walk in the door and immediately you're presented with, look, we've been tracking these players for a long time, we know a lot about them, we've spoken to people to get character reference, we've got the numbers that speak for themselves, goals and so on, minutes on the pitch. Could you give us your thoughts on the player? And then me and myself and Ryan, we sat there, watched this very simple decision for us, because we have lots of input to tell us really good characters, really good guys, professionals, robust. We know their injury records, we know their output physically throughout the last, we know their goals, their assists. So all that is a given. I trust all that information. Now I'm just looking at a football player playing really well on the screen in front of me. Then if you look at the Aidan one, I had Aidan as a 19-year-old at Bristol City. I worked with him day in, day out. I saw his qualities as a person. I saw his qualities as a player. Then, he's played in a very competitive MK Dons team that I was part of the process of building that team, and influential in bringing Aidan to MK Dons. He played like 19 games in a very strong campaign. So I put that information forward. The guys that you just spoke about, the ownership, Richard, several analysts that work on behalf of the club from afar, are all looking at the hard and fast numbers around Aidan, and we come to a group decision that we think that it's a very good signing. So I think it really, those two signings in particular, show the robustness, I believe, of the recruitment system.
Okay, it's a very good answer. Very good answer. I want to just kind of take you back a little bit before we then come into kind of moving forward at Notts. So clearly, everyone wants to be a professional footballer. You had talent. You was it at Norwich, I think, as a young lad? Yeah. But your career path was different in the sense that you weren't necessarily able to fulfill a long-term professional career, and you looked at coaching at a much earlier age. Just talk us through sort of those formative years. You were growing up, was it Essex way or Norwich way?
Yeah, I grew up in northeast London, but London is so London is so vast that they normally the home counties take a chunk of London as their territory as well, if that makes sense. So yeah. East London rolls into Essex, North London into Middlesex, and so on. So I played in a ferociously competitive area. My county team was like 4 England players.
Who were they? Go on.
Nicky Shorey, John Terry, Paul Konchesky, and Bobby Zamora.
Because Senrab was the top team, wasn't it? Which I know Bobby Zamora. He played for Senrab. I think was John Terry Senrab. I'm not sure.
John Terry played for Senrab as well. They were insanely good. At the time, Bobby's still my best friend to this day. And we then went and played for Norwich together as schoolboys, and we moved then from there to Bristol Rovers together, and that's where our paths separated. But for me personally, I started playing at this type of level of football, and I picked up a horrific injury, which is part and parcel. I don't think my body was particularly cut out for for football, if I'm honest. I don't think I had the strength in my body to really particularly in that era, when pitches were unforgiving, tackles were extremely unforgiving. And so I hyperextended sort of 45 degrees the wrong way. I knew something was wrong when I saw all the studs on the bottom of my boot. The pain was in. And so that effectively put an end to any serious, chance of playing football anymore. I had 5 operations over the course of 3 years.
What age were you at this point?
I was 20, just turned 20. I then did play again in the National League for Bishop Stortford, but maybe 5 games, and my knees wanted to go in different directions. So that was kind of it, and I decided I need to really focus on trying to to do something to make a career for myself. And really, I almost fell into football coaching. I was kind of pushed into it by a friend. Said to me, look, go and do some coaching with the young players, because you'll enjoy it and get your love back for, after suffering a long time, you start to almost begrudge football. Until I started to work with young players and then realize it's not football's fault, it's life, and you need to get on with it. So I started to really enjoy coaching, and then progressed. Fortunately, I was able to progress through the ranks, as it were. And my first real opportunity came at Leyton Orient, where I was working with the young players in the academy at Leyton Orient, and I had a phone call one afternoon from Tony Bloom's brother, Darren Bloom at Brighton, and he told me that my name had cropped up a few times. He was asking people in the area. They were looking for an under-23s coach, under-21s at the time. They didn't have an under-21s at Brighton. They wanted to establish one, and they asked me to go and meet Gus Poyet and have an interview. I'd done that, and 2 weeks later he offered me a job, and that was it. I moved to Brighton. Had 4 brilliant years there, and and so on, and continued to work in a professional game from that point on.
At Brighton, would you have been part of the coaching staff that came up when they won 3rd tier Division 1, and they won it at Notts County, Meadow Lane, last game of the season? You were there. Martin Allen tells a great story about orchestrating a fight in the dugouts that was pre-arranged before the game, because we needed a point to stay up. And so Martin Allen picking a fight with Gus Poyet, and I don't know, our goalkeeping coach is assigned to someone else in your dugout to have a square up.
I'm pretty sure that I was here. I had a young player by the name of Yasser Kassim who was making his debut that day, and so I'd finished training and drove up to watch the game here, and I remember it well. Yeah, and I was involved in that staff at that time. Yeah.
Happy days.
Some character, Mad Dog.
Oh yeah, I mean, very popular with Notts. Very good at working
with everyone. I mean, he came into my office at Swindon after a game, put his feet on my desk, drank all my beers in the fridge. I had to send one of the young staff to Tesco's to get more beers, while he was telling me everything that I was doing wrong. Incredible guy, amazing guy. Honestly, he was reenacting stuff on the desk, and he had everybody giving him props. It was I learned more that day than in 2 seasons put together, I think.
Did he have Monty the dog with him or not at the time? The Monty the Black Labrador.
No, but a lot of the stories revolved around Monty, and I was actually, I think I felt very close to Monty by the time he'd left my office. About 12 bottles of beer later, some character, brilliant.
Monty's gone to the pearly doggy gates in the sky. He's got a dachshund called Bill, I believe now.
Well, Monty will be up there, running the show. There's no doubt. There's no doubt about that. There's no other way.
It's funny how when you chat, banter in it, the stories that come out. I don't want to dwell too much on it, but it has been, until getting the Notts job, your only spell as the number 1. and I'm guessing you learnt a lot. Possibly not quite what you signed up for. We won't go into too much detail, but I am familiar with Lee Power, and shall we say, his slightly unorthodox approach. He made you, I don't know, was it manager, head coach? I mean, because he was involved in this process as well, wasn't he? And you had a season there. There was, I'm not sure whether the Spurs guy was still involved at that point, but it was kind of an unusual, to put it mildly, structure.
Yeah, it was a confusing time. Lee is well, you know yourself, if you sit with Lee to for a bite to eat, you go on a wild adventure. He's incredible guy. I mean, excuse me, just so everyone's my hay fever is really playing up, so I apologize, but no, Lee is an incredible guy, but he has other interests and things like that, and so there was a period of time when he wanted me to be head coach. At that time, I felt like Lee wasn't the ideal owner for me to embark on my first role.
Yes.
He was very cross with me about that, but we decided that we would that a manager would be brought in and allow me to continue to really run the training ground, maybe for want of a better term. But we agreed eventually to bring in a manager. Martin Ling came in. Martin done, I think, 8 games, but just found he wasn't coping particularly well. A lot of things going on. He's a great guy, and we were in a good place. I think we won 5 out of 8 games. I think we drew a couple. We lost 1 game, and that was Martin done. So Mr. Power then used that as a stick to beat me with, and I was put in caretaker charge. We had a good finish to the season, and he wanted me to take the job, full time. And by that stage, I thought, okay, well, I've been doing the job. I'm going to give it a go. But over the summer, there was very, very little in terms of contact with Lee. There was almost no recruitment at all to speak of. We went into the season with like 14 players or something, and it was a crazy time. We had a very mixed start to the season. We picked up some bad results. I mean, we went to Gillingham on the 3rd game of the season with no striker at the club. We had one, John O'Beek, who was injured for 6 weeks. We just had no striker, and that's no way to try to compete at League One level. So, excuse me, very difficult. There was a lot of involvement from Tim Sherwood, who's, I mean, Tim's an amazing, he won the Premier League. He played for one of the best teams that we've seen in the Premier League. He played for England, played for Tottenham. Incredible experience, great, presence, aura. But I was kind of, I was sidelined for a lot of that period. But then I think really Tim felt like he wasn't able to relate to the players particularly well, and kind of moved on to a different to a different adventure somewhere else. And we were left in a bad place. I tried to salvage everything. I was offered the entirety of my contract if I wanted it to to leave, because Lee was I think at that stage Lee Powell was very possibly remorseful, which I think is a strange word to say when you talk about Lee Powell, but I think he felt that possibly it left me a little bit high and dry. So, but I decided that I didn't think that was a particularly strong thing to do. There was a lot of players there that I'd been working with for a number of years, a lot of staff that I'd been working with there. And so I wanted to fight and give it a really good shot. But ultimately it wasn't enough. But of course, you know that as head coach on paper, you are going to shoulder the burden, and I wouldn't change that. Really, honestly, I wouldn't change that, because going through that sort of suffering and that sort of pressure was a big experience for me.
So post Swindon,
yeah,
you went back to being number 2 with success at Milton Keynes Dons, Russell Martin, and at Swansea. You're back in the number 1 hot seat again. Is that something you've always wanted to have another crack at with, in terms of a better structure, or is this something a little bit out of the blue for you?
I think that's a great question, because it's one that I sort of had to ask myself. And what I've learned over the years is that as hard as you work and as much as you try to master the art of what you do, try to improve your coaching, try to improve how you communicate, how you organize, all the modern things with sports science and analytics, try to be up to date. Ultimately, if you go to a club that have got maybe a hidden agenda or in a bad place at the time because there's a power struggle, or there's an old squad that need so for me personally, I was fortunate that coming away from Swansea, there was plenty of communication between myself and other clubs and other managers and so on, which was great. But as soon as this became a possibility, I was really, really excited, because of the way that the club are trying to move forward in a really planned out, considered way. I felt like this is the type of opportunity that I can't walk away from, because so many clubs are in a bad place. So many clubs don't really have a strategy. So many clubs don't have staff that are the backbone of the football club, that maybe you don't see from day to day, but they're the people that make a club solid. They're the people that make the club really on a path. Somebody like me is coming in to try to put a style of play on the pitch, to try to motivate the players, to try to use my experience to change the formation, or to make the right change at the right time, pick the right team, and so on. But the club needs to be in a really good place, and that's what I've learned over the years. We just spoke about Swindon. Excuse me. We just spoke about Swindon, and so many ups and downs, so many knee-jerk reactions, staff not in place, or staff leaving the club and not being replaced, and these type of things are extremely difficult for you to be able to stay on the straight and narrow.
Style of play. Everybody you speak to in the professional game will, I guess, describe you in a nutshell as a great coach. Yeah, improves players, plays bold, possession-based football. You'll have obviously seen what Notts did with Ian Birchinall last year. Is it, from your perspective, continuity rather than ripping everything up?
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that. I think for me to excuse me, for me to go and work with a group of players that don't have any history of having the ball, dominating the ball, you've really got to start from scratch. But you have a group of players here that have been dominating a lot. They're used to that. The club suits that. The club is in a false position. We all know that. And you should come to Meadowlane and see the Notts team with the ball. Ideally, you want to see them taking the game by the scruff of the neck. So I felt that, I really respected the work that Ian had done. And I thought, okay, this feels like something that I can go into and try to have a very similar outlook on how the game should be played, and try to move forward in a way that's not like, we're like clashing. The players don't understand, and it's all changed. The fans are not used to it. It's going to be something similar, and hopefully we can, go to the next level.
In terms of the signings that have come in so far, 2 new strikers, 50 goals between them, for Gateshead last season. As you would be aware, we have, attack-minded, midfield stroke strikers, Kel Roberts, Ruben Rodriguez. There's clearly significant amount of goal-scoring capability in the team. And I guess there will be a little bit of a debate last year. Some people would say, actually, we should be scoring even more. And there would be another debate, and I'd welcome your generic thoughts. And this was something I spoke with Ian about as well. I'm quite pragmatic. And of the top 10 teams in the National League last season, we had the 9th worst defensive record. And so there would be a view among some people that we conceded too many goals. No matter how many chances we created, we leaked too many, certainly for a top spot or so. I mean, what's your take on that? I mean, are you kind of a Kevin Keegan-esque type of cavalier, or how important is it to keep it tight at the other end?
Yeah, there's no way of dressing up that if you attack, there are opportunities for you to be exploited at the back. And of course, we know that other sets of fans will be saying it's all very well we defend, but we never get forward. And so there's all, but we also understand that there's a balance. There is a balance. If you are attacking and you are getting repeatedly leaving the back door open, the balance is wrong. If you're squeaky at the back, really tight, but you never seem to be creating, the balance is wrong. So, striking the correct, getting the correct formula is a tough thing. And that's what I'm charged with. And that's what we'll be trying to do. I think, when I left Swansea, we were second, I believe, in the Championship, or third for clean sheets. But there was problems there in terms of, you'd have 2 clean sheets and then concede 4, because we were on we were on a journey of trying to build the squad up that had been kind of decimated a little bit after the parachute payments had gone and so on. So we were working through a process of how do we try to create the maximum amount of chances that we can, but also keep the back door closed. And that that's a tough thing to do. And obviously last season, something like maybe the 4th top goal scoring team in the National League, but as you say, the 9th conceding out of the top 10. So we need to try to address the balance a little bit, try to work out how we attack, but build into the attack a possibility of stopping the opposition very, very quickly, trying to stop them at source so they don't progress up the pitch. But these things are challenging, and that's what myself and Ryan are going to be trying to do from day one.
Another kind of let's call it a debate among sections of the supporter base was clearly there is a focus on statistical analysis, data, all of those sort of things. But there are things that statistics and data cannot measure. Yeah, you can measure how far they run, intensity, and those sorts of things. But then you get the characteristics of mentality, resilience, putting the head in where it hurts, centre halves, cut eyes, all of the rest of it. Where I guess you're going to say it's a blend, but just talk to me about where you are in terms of that balancing act.
You're right. It is a blend, but what the numbers do is they start to show patterns throughout the season, and it's not uncommon for teams to see running statistics directly related to results. That's not uncommon. So if you don't run a certain distance in a game, or you don't sprint a certain amount of distance in a game, your chances of losing that game become much higher. Those sort of patterns emerge over the course of a season, and you can start to see those patterns after 5 games, 10 games. So they give you an idea of things that you need to try to focus on, because they appear to be giving you either a huge advantage if you hit those type of numbers, or they seem to be a problem if you don't hit those type of numbers. After that's done, you need to watch with a keen eye to say, I can see certain things that are going on the pitch, subtle things that you pick up in the game where players maybe are players hide at times. They become very good at looking like they're trying to show up for a ball. Players become clever at not quite being able to get there, so that they don't have to, and you need to be able to see that. And I've been watching lots of games for a number of years and working with players and so on. Ryan Harley, of course, was a really very, very talented player, as I'm sure you know, extremely talented player. I mean, I first saw Ryan as a player at Brighton, and he was incredible. But he knows when he's been on the pitch, when guys are not really working hard enough or not showing up enough, or players have just swallowed it in a big occasion and they throw. So Ryan would be able to spot those type of things, and so. Yeah, there is. I mean, it's boring, but it is a blend. But the numbers for sure are really helpful. The numbers are helpful, but the numbers alone would not be able to when I don't think the day's ever going to come where a computer is going to be on the touchline and it's not going to happen. Thankfully, it's going to be guys on the touchline barking orders and seeing things in real life that are happening, but. The numbers are never going to go away. Everyone is always from now on in football, are going to use certain data to try to help them to either back up what they think they're seeing, or possibly to show them that, okay, maybe you feel strongly about this, that, and the other, but the reality is that that's not causing us a problem, or it is causing us a problem. So the numbers will be there, but so will the guys, so will the people, and the guys and girls will be there watching and analysing.
Yeah, someone mentioned to me in the game ahead of this. They said they wouldn't be surprised if Ryan. Are you going to register him this year to play or not, or has he actually officially hung his boots up?
Well, I think possibly the players might come to me and say, "Hey, I think we're going to need to register Ryan," because when they see him train, there's a chance they're gonna come and say, "Look, we need to." No, Ryan's he's really. He's an excellent footballer, and he still keeps himself in great condition. So he will be in and out of training at times, and may even, in the friendlies and that we might see if he needs to help us out. I'm sure he can do that. But it's a great thing for me to have on my staff, is somebody that can jump in and demonstrate so well, and he's still in such good physical condition.
Without wishing to name drop, but Graham Taylor, the former England manager, Aston Villa, great career at Watford. You're probably too young to even remember him there. He said to me one of the challenges of management was to try to get the fan base to kind of manage supporters' expectations. Yeah, and if you can kind of get to a middle ground where fans always want a bit more, but you've got them in the right place, that enables you to concentrate and focus on your job a little more. Now, the reason I mention that is clearly Notts County have never not been in the Football League until the last 4 years. As you've mentioned, you look at the stadium, you look at the supporter base. You can look, I guess you could draw a comparison with Grimsby coming down, bad owner, they managed to get straight back up through the playoffs, so it can be done. But I guess we expect, and I use we as a fan base, for promotion, and that brings with it, for you and for the players, clearly certain pressures with it. I mean, what are your thoughts? What are your views? What's your message to fans on that?
Well, it's tough, because whatever I say, if we don't produce the goods, it's just words. But I know certainly for myself, I took the job knowing the pressure, but and I'm sure I'm repeating myself, I'm sure, but every job I've been in is huge pressure. When you go to Swindon,
yes, big club.
They still remember the Premier League. You know, they expect you. You know, and we were very, in actual fact, we were running like a small club, and we had the highest finish when we went to the playoff final for 25 years or something. You know, the highest league finish for 25 years, something like that. But the pressure doesn't go away. The next season, you've now got to go a step further. So the pressure's there. You go to MK Dons, they're 22nd in the league. You look at the stadium at MK Dons, it looks like a championship club.
Yeah.
Huge pressure. When I went there in the November with Russell, we were 22nd in League One. And, you know, you're under huge pressure. You have to get out of the relegation zone quick. Thankfully, we did, because the pandemic came. If we were still sitting in that zone, we would have been relegated. So, you know, there's huge pressure. And then the following season, okay, now you need to push on. Going to Swansea, they expect you to be in the Premier League because they were there for a number of years. They had an amazing experience, having the biggest clubs in England and coming down to the Liberty. So they're like, come on, there's pressure. You need to get us back to where we want to be. But there's pressure everywhere you go. What often is not matched is the support. There's always pressure, but often there isn't the support either from, behind the scenes or, because sometimes you're at a club where the fans are very disillusioned with the ownership. They can only take it out on the people on the pitch and that. So they take it out on the players and the guy who's standing in the technical area. But there's pressure here. I know that, I'm fully aware, but there are people that are pushing to try to help to be successful, to help me at this moment and the players to be successful. So if you're going to be under pressure, which you are, you're best to be under pressure with people that are pushing in the same direction.
Agreed. But irrespective of the designation of manager or head coach, you're the number one.
Yeah.
And you would know in football, a lot of that arrows in on the shoulders of the manager or the head coach, doesn't it? They shoulder huge amounts of responsibility. I mean, how do you relax? How do you get away from it, or how are you going to deal with that?
Well, for me, the season will end at some point, and maybe I can relax then. But until that moment, I'm here to work under pressure, to try to achieve the goals of the club, and relaxing will come at a later date. And there's a lot of people out there that are working under huge pressure that have no way of getting away from that. And I'm in that position now where there isn't particularly time to relax. There's a job to be done, a stressful job. There's a lot of people relying on myself and Ryan and on the players. So yeah, we need to relax when the job is done.
You're not on social media, are you?
I'm not. No.
No, good. Well, do not. Don't go on it, crikey.
No.
A lot of focus obviously is on Wrexham. We've seen the huge amount of money they've spent.
Yeah.
But kind of Grimsby have shown they've come through the playoffs without spending that money to go up. And we all know statistically, numerically, it's an incredibly hard division to get out of, because there's only one automatic, as opposed to if you're in League Two, for instance, there's three. So you've instantly lost 66% of your chances of going up automatic.
Yeah.
I don't want to hold you to this, but from your perspective, your discussions with the owners, the backroom team, it is realistic to believe that this club can get promoted at the end of the season. That is kind of what you are firmly focused on.
Yeah, that's it. We know how difficult it is to get out of the division. Like you said, that it's structured to make it extremely difficult. But that's the challenge. That's what we have to try to do. And there's a lot of variables that can stop you from doing that are almost out of your control. But certainly, to not do everything that you can that's wrong. Things happening. I mean, you look at the playoffs. You play a full season of football, and then you can be judged on a moment in a game. Yeah, no, and that's that. But to not do the bits that you can do and to try as hard as you can try, that's unforgivable. But yeah, at some point there is some element of this in the game, and we all accept that. And sometimes you are judged on something that is just, but we signed up for that. The one thing I know for me is that I will try to use every moment to try to improve performance and prepare the players for each game. That's the bit that I can do.
How important is it to you to win at all costs, or is the manner in which you achieve victory massively important to you?
Well, I want to go into the game having a very good idea how we're going to win. I don't want to go into the game with my fingers crossed, hoping that somebody does something to win us the game. I want to try to prepare so that as many of those variables that we just spoke about that can happen, I try to remove those if possible, so that I feel like I know if we do X, Y, and Z, we have such a good chance of winning. Of course, like I said before, you can do all the work in the world. If you don't have the correct players in the group, or you've got certain positions that are not filled, or you have players that are not fit for purpose, doesn't matter how much you do. It's impossible. You can be the best and work the hardest and be the cleverest or whatever, but you can't win unless other things are already in place. So I believe that Notts County at the moment are trying to be really competitive for this league. Yeah, we know that some Hollywood stars that don't even know how much money they've got, they're bankrolling the club, and that's their prerogative, and that's great. Good luck to them. But we're trying to do things in a different way. I just need to try to go, by the time I finish my work on a Friday, if we're playing on a Saturday, that I believe I've covered every base, so I can picture what the game is going to look like and how we're going to go about winning it. So yeah, I want to win more than anything else. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to toss a coin or get lucky. I want to try to orchestrate our victories.
When are you? Have you got to see the players yet? When are they all back in? I presume it can't be too far off.
Yeah, the players will be back in. There's a bit of testing to be done to make sure that we know where they are physically, so that we don't go straight into something and get people injured and that. And this is a great thing a great addition to football now, is that we have people that are really looking after the players better. But then we'll really get down to nitty gritty on the following Monday, on the start of July, and really then get eyes on the players, start to very quickly work out who's got what qualities and how we're going to be. Then we have a good set of fixtures coming up, friendly games that we can really try to have a look at people. And so we're really excited for that. Really excited for that.
Again, with that, and you may well be, you can't really say too much. We've had on the day we're doing this interview, we've had the busiest day transfer-wise, incomings and outgoings, renewal of contracts that has been this summer so far. Are you expecting it now to be totally quiet? Are you hoping that some of the players that have been linked with moves in the past you'll be able to hold on to? Are there other players? Are there potentially other incomings? Where are we in terms of, if you like, the assembly of your group of players?
Yeah, I think some of that is out of my control, of course, because players have finished the campaign last season and had negotiations or whatever, or they've made their mind up that they want to exit the club or whatever, and some of those things I just won't be able to change. So I think there's a chance that players will exit, and I think there's a chance that those players will be replaced, because again, as we spoke about throughout this this interview, that I don't think the club will be in a place where they're not prepared. I know we won't be in a place where we're not prepared, and then there's an exit, and we're, what will we do? So there's contingency plans in place all the time.
Final question, conscious of your time, you've got another one of these to do. Would you be looking to operate in the loan market? The club used it fairly extensively last season. Are you a fan of getting players in on loan from clubs, or do you kind of like to work with your own players under contract?
Well, first, I would say that the club are not set either way against loans or for loans. The view is very much, if we feel like we have the ideal player to make us stronger, whether he's a loan or a permanent, whether he's a young player or a senior player, if we really believe that we found the best player, to come in, we will do it. Me personally, I've had great experience with loans. I know one or two more positive, much more positive, but one or two that weren't so successful. But certainly, let's be honest, you can achieve bringing a player into your club that ordinarily you wouldn't be able to afford in the open market. And so, therefore, that can be hugely beneficial. So I wouldn't be at all surprised to see us make a loan signing.
Luke, you've been incredibly candid, incredibly honest. It's been great listening to you, and hopefully for all the fans watching on this, gives a little bit of insight behind the mask. On behalf of all Notts County fans, we wish you every success. And here's the deal: you get us promoted, and we get you back on the show at the end of the season.
I couldn't think of anything better, honestly, and it's been brilliant talking to you. You need to get me one of those shirts. It's the most important thing, because that is really, that is top. So you need to.
These are very rare, These they're nearly as old as you. I'll get you one. I'll get you one.
It's standing the test of time better than I am. It looks fantastic. So no, honestly, it's been lovely to speak to you, and I appreciate you putting this together for me, and I'm really excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to the season.
My pleasure, Luke. Thank you very much indeed. All the very best.
Thank you.